Hi friends, welcome back to another episode of Generation Tech. My name is Alan. Today we continue our Clone Wars history series. For those of you who want to watch this entire series in chronological order, we've placed it in a playlist in the top right corner. There's also some supplementary videos in there that will explain how the Clone Wars began. In our last episode, thanks to the quick actions of Padme Amidala and Sith Lord Jar Jar Binks, Viceroy Nute Gunray of the Trade Federation has been captured and taken into the custody of Republic forces on the planet of Rodea. Gunray is a high-ranking member of the Separatist Council, the first real leader that the Republic has been able to capture. This is huge for the Republic because so far the war really hasn't gone their way. The Grand Army of the Republic is stretched thin and is being attacked from all directions, and dozens of worlds are leaving the Republic as a result every week. Capturing Nute Gunray was a symbolic victory that the Republic needed to show that it was still in the fight, which is why the Senate not only sent an attachment of Senate Commandos, but also Master Luminara Unduli and Ahsoka Tano on board the Republic Star Destroyer Tranquility to bring the war criminal back to Coruscant for trial. While the Neimoidian wasn't all that dangerous by himself, he had an extremely long rap sheet of crimes dating all the way back to the blockade of Naboo a decade before the start of the war. Nute Gunray also had a lot of knowledge about the Separatist plans and had been in contact directly with Lord Sidious for more than a decade as well. Plus, the Neimoidian was a self-serving coward and had very little loyalty to anyone but himself. This means he would crack very quickly under Republic interrogation. Which is why Darth Sidious, aka Palpy McScrotumface, tells Count Dooku about how big a liability Nute Gunray would be. Count Dooku, always a step ahead, had sent his best assassin aside Ventress to rescue or silence the Neimoidian. Unlike Anakin, Ventress had no qualms with killing a hostage. She was a hardened killer that had been cruelly shaped into a weapon by Count Dooku. Long ago, she had actually been a Jedi learner, but when her master was killed, she was left aimless and alone. But despite her immense skill as a combatant and as an assassin, she hasn't been all that successful against the Jedi, especially against Anakin Skywalker, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and Ahsoka Tano. Due to her recent failures, Count Dooku lets Ventress know that failure is not an option this time around. Meanwhile, the Republic Star Destroyer Tranquility is on the way to Coruscant. The Jedi are attempting to interrogate Nute Gunray, but so far the Neimoidian has been surprisingly resilient. Most likely he fears the wrath of Darth Sidious more than he does the Republic. Also, the Jedi are not using enhanced force interrogation techniques for ethical reasons. The Jedi are attempting to find out who Nute Gunray's secret contacts in the Republic are and where they're based. There has been suspicion for quite some time now that the Confederacy has moles within the Republic government, potentially even in positions of high power. While Master Luminara slowly and calmly tries to bring out Nute Gunray's worst fears, Ahsoka Tano, passionate and hot-headed like her master, plays bad cop and brings a lightsaber up to the Neimoidian's throat, demanding he give them the information they're asking for. Despite Master Luminara's disapproval, it does seem to work on the cowardly Separatists, but before they can get another word out of him, they come under attack. The Separatist rescue mission is here, a swarm of Ultra droids along with boarding ships that latch onto the Tranquility, and soon fighting erupts inside the ship. Commander Gree and his squad of clones from Green Company along with Master Unduli go and confront the boarders, while Ahsoka and the Senate Commandos guard Gunray. Unlike normal infantry units in the GAR, the Senate Commandos were all non-clones, and a Special Forces branch of the Senate Guard, which protected the Republic's legislature and executive branch. They were kind of like the Secret Service, and had to undergo several background checks and years of training to earn their position, but they were more like a special police force rather than an actual combat unit. Upon hearing about the Separatist attack, Nute Gunray becomes unwilling to cooperate. He's hopeful of being rescued, but Ahsoka reminds the Neimoidian they could just be here to silence him permanently. The Separatist boarding ships are built with a hole-piercing mechanism that latches onto enemy ships and then disgorges several heavy super battle droids. I think this is a really cool design. It's kind of similar to the squid robots that the Separatists would use during the Battle of Commando, and they basically function in a really good way because Separatist droids are not afraid of vacuum, so should the piercing mechanism actually fail, it doesn't really affect the droids all that much. A squad of clones bravely try to hold off the battle droids, but their armor is way too heavy and they manage to overwhelm the clone position. A dozen or so battle droids make it past the hangar and head towards the prison blocks, but Commander Gree's clones are able to hold them at bay within the narrow corridor leading to the prison, and with the help of Master Luminara are able to destroy the entire boarding party. While the super battle droids posed a significant threat for the Republic, especially in the confines of a narrow ship, they were actually just a distraction. Asajj Ventress had also boarded the ship, and she proceeded to plant numerous thermal charges in the cruiser's engine room. As Captain Arrogance of the Commando Guard informs Ahsoka about the destruction of the Separatist boarding party, Asajj Ventress pops through the vents of the prison block and begins taking out the Senate Commandos. In the tight confines of the prison blocks, the Commandos don't really stand a chance against the assassin, especially with their bulky and extremely long DC-15A blasters. Only Ahsoka Tano really has a chance of stopping Asajj Ventress, and while she is pretty skilled for her age and one day would become an extremely accomplished duelist, at this point she's still quite young and not as good as Ventress. Ahsoka Tano mainly used Form 5 or Xian, which is a more aggressive form of the defensively minded Form 3. But what made Ahsoka's lightsaber combat technique different was her unorthodox reverse grip. She was able to hold her own against most combatants, but Asajj Ventress proved to be way too much for her to handle. Asajj Ventress was trained in Dooku's Form 2 Makasi, specifically created for dueling single combatants. What made her different from Dooku was the fact that she dual-wielded lightsabers, which made the form less powerful but more relentless and rapid. Ventress, with some help from Gunray, is able to trap the young Padawan in the Neimoidian's prison cell. Luckily for the young Padawan, her master duly senses a disturbance in the Force, and she arrives just in time to free Ahsoka and stop the Sith assassin. But just like Grievous, Ventress always has an escape plan and detonates her thermal charges in the engine room and uses the distraction to evade capture. Once again, Master Unduli decides to leave Ahsoka behind to guard Gunray. To which Ahsoka protests. The young Padawan senses that Ventress is far too dangerous for the Jedi Master to face alone. But the Jedi Master is dismissive about the assassin's skills, calling Ventress undisciplined. While Master Unduli is definitely a skilled combatant and has many years of training, she's probably never faced anyone as unorthodox and as dirty of a fighter as Asajj Ventress. Not only is her lightsaber form deadly, she's also very unpredictable, something that a Jedi Master trained in the Jedi Temple isn't really used to combating. Ahsoka, despite her rashness and sometimes reckless behavior, seems to always have good intuition, which really helps her in the middle of the battlefield. And in this case, she was right. Even before the battle starts, Asajj quickly blinds the Jedi Master with some hot steam, and suddenly Luminara finds her many years of training within the safe confines of the Jedi Temple useless. Such was the arrogance of many masters inside of the Jedi Order. Meanwhile, Ahsoka is debating out loud whether she should disobey her master's orders, to which Captain Arrogance advises her to follow her intuition. And after all, that's what makes them different from the droids. Despite being blinded partially, Luminara still does not take Ventress seriously and taunts her, saying that she's unrefined and sloppy. But quickly, she finds herself on the defensive and in danger of losing her own head and consequently her other eye. Luckily, Luminara was trained as a Guardian Jedi and heavily focused in the art of lightsaber combat. During the Old Republic era, Jedi Guardians stood on the front lines against Sith warriors and were renowned for their dueling abilities. But again, without any Sith to duel for more than 1,000 years, the Jedi Guardians didn't really have any real-life experience and had fallen back onto old methods of book learning instead of actual real-life experience. Nonetheless, Luminara was extremely skilled in defensive Form 3, which she then paired with the aggressive Form 5. But Asajj Ventress' raw power and ferocity overwhelms the Jedi Master and traps her beneath some pipes. But before she can kill the Jedi Master, Ahsoka comes to the rescue and forces Ventress to retreat again. This time around, Ventress not only has a plan B, but she also has a plan C. Despite their careful vetting and background checks, the Senate Commandos were still humans and not clones, and susceptible to large cash payments and bribes. I'm also sure a government job, even captain's pay, is not as good as what the Separatists are willing to pay. And unfortunately for the Republic, Captain Argus agrees, and upon being signaled by Ventress, turns on his fellow commandos and grabs Nute Gunray for himself. Captain Gree is also there and tries to take down the captain. In the middle of the fight, Argus says the following.
A clone like you would never understand. I wanted a life with more than empty servitude.
And for that you'd betray the Republic.
I think this further reinforces just how loyal the clones were to the Republic, which is kind of sad. Even though they are kind of slaves, they're still more loyal than someone like Captain Argus. And Captain Argus does have a point, but before he can make it, he's knocked out by the commander. But surprise, Nute Gunray comes out of nowhere and knocks the commander out as well. Argus and Gunray manage to board a Republic corvette and escape off the Venator-class Star Destroyer. Azaz Ventress also makes her way to an escape pod and then rendezvous with the Republic corvette and proceeds to kill Argus just randomly. Which is kind of unnecessary, I think. You know, Ventress really needs to work on herself, and she will later on. If you guys really like Ventress, by the way, check out the novel Dark Disciple. It's definitely one of my favorite new canon novels, and it kind of talks about more of what Asajj Ventress is like, you know, after she's basically rejected by the Separatists later on. So guys, that's our story for today, and don't worry, the adventures of Nute Gunray, the cowardly Neimoidian, are not over. But don't forget to subscribe, hit that notification button so you don't miss out on his next adventure in our next installment of Clone Wars history. Anyway guys, thanks for joining us today. If you're watching this, you are Generation Tech.